And with that, I want to turn it over to Matt, who's going to introduce our last session of the day and the storytelling that we're bringing to you on multi-stakeholder initiatives.
Very good. Thank you very much, Merrick. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. Buenos tardes. I am not as gifted as Jerry O'Callahan, in many ways, I'm sure. And his ability to communicate in multiple languages is just one of them, I'm sure. But this afternoon, we wanted to share with you some insights into the real world of what is going on and how people are collaborating in multi-stakeholder initiatives. Because it's one thing to talk about something, and it's another thing to actually have firsthand experience. We're very privileged to have 6 individuals join us, 5 of them physically, and then 1 in voice, okay? Not spiritually or anything. We weren't going to interconnect like that. I saw Mike going, what is, yeah. No, we're just, we're very fortunate. What I'd like to do is to ask Sarah Lynch with World Wildlife Fund and Jimmy Wohl with Rafter T Ranch to join me up here right now. And then, Matt, I'd like for you to connect us with Jim Handley. This is like the phone a friend thing, you know, for answering a question on that TV show. And then, Matt, you're going to signal me when you have Jimmy over the speaker here so that we can connect with him before we move on. Jim, are you there?
Yes, sir. This is Jim Handley.
Very good. Jim, this is Matt Sutton-Vermeulen. I have you on speakerphone with 300 guests at the Global Conference on Sustainable Beef. How are you doing today?
I am not hearing him.
Jim, can you hear me now? Matt, you're going to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on this connection, and we'll keep moving. Jim, can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. You have 300 guests on the Global Conference on Sustainable Beef here at the Inverness in Denver, Colorado with you. How's your day in Florida?
Well, we're getting a glorious little bit of rain.
Awesome. We are not here. I have Sarah Lynch at the podium with Jimmy Wohl from Rafter T. Would you like to say hello?
Hello, Sarah and Jimmy. Sorry I couldn't be there in person with you all.
We appreciate you taking the time away from your busy activities out down there in Florida. What I'd like to do is first to ask Sarah to take us through some information to give you more insights into actionable items that have been taking place down in Florida for over 5 years, with multiple stakeholders getting together, figuring out how to take action on science-based measurable outcomes. So Sarah, if you could take it away, I would greatly appreciate it.
So, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming to this storytelling hour. And I'm looking forward to telling you the story along with Jim, who's the Executive Director of the Florida Cattlemen's Association, and Jimmy Wohl, who is the owner of Rafter T Ranch. The story of, at least our real-life story, of the Florida Ranchlands Environmental Services Project, FRESP for short. And essentially, it's I've been asked to sort of tell you the trials and tribulations of our efforts to figure out something that we could do together that is a conservation organization and the cattle industry in the South Central Florida. But because I know that we're the last thing standing between you and libations and it's been a hard day, I'm going to tell you the punchline right now, what we've accomplished over this 5-year period, and then I'm going to go through a little bit of the storytelling about how we got here so that you'll walk out of this room even if you leave right now and you'll know what we've accomplished. So what over the past 5 years that we've done as a collaboration, working together with a variety of stakeholders, is to create in South Florida a new product, a new service called Water Management Services that generate the environmental services of water retention and phosphorus load reduction, which are critically needed in South Central Florida. And we did that, we did that in such a way that the only people that can produce this product right now are South Florida cattle ranchers living in the Northern Everglades ecoregion. And we did this through a payment for environmental services approach, a program that tries to create market-like attributes to stimulate a supply response from cattle ranchers who want to provide this service. And the punchline is that after working for 5 years together, we convinced a buyer, that is the state of Florida, to put real money on the table to create a new program called the Northern Everglades Payment for Environmental Services Program, which is launching with its first solicitation this November. So that's where we got to, and let me now tell you how we did it. So to first understand how this whole thing came about, you have to understand a little bit about Florida. And for some of you folks from the West, this is going to be kind of a shocker, because Florida, and here we have the state of Florida. Here's Orlando at the top of the Everglades ecosystem. Here's the park at down here at the bottom. And this is the way it used to look. 54 inches on average of rainfall fall in Florida, roughly in 3 or 4 months, from May to November. And the way it used to happen is it would gather up here, and then it would come down into this big, huge wetland called Lake Okeechobee, 730 square miles. So that's one really, really big wetland. And when it overflowed its banks, that was what the Everglades used to be, and that was the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, mile-wide, inches deep, the River of Grass. That water would come all the way down into the part, well, into this part of the Everglades, and then into Florida Bay. That was then, and now, after 100 years of intensive drainage for both agriculture and human settlement purposes, we now have a completely altered ecosystem, and so the lake is sort of severed from its roots, further south. Now the park, which is this bit right down here, is pretty starved for water, and the water that it does get has been now highly polluted by both nitrogen and phosphorus, which has a devastating impact on the park. But you can see now that water that used to come here now. Sorry. Well, you want me to hold this?
No, you're doing just fine. I just need to help you out here, and I'm going to hand that to you so you can pin that. And then you're gonna
put that in the pocket.
Is that all right?
Oops. We can't do multitask.
Sorry about that.
That's
I should have
right.
thought of that earlier. My bad.
Okay. So good.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that. Is that better? Can everybody hear me back there? Perfect. Okay. So the story then is because of this massive change in the hydrology, largely as a result of human intervention, right now we have a highly managed water management system in South Florida. So in response to that, and because of concerns about the park down here dying, in the year 2000 there was a huge effort on this part of the federal and state governments to say we have to address this problem, and they came up with a very comprehensive plan to restore the Everglades and to deal with the water quality and quantity problems in the whole Everglades ecoregion. And around this time, around 2001, 2002, World Wildlife Fund decided that now that a lot had been done to take care of the issue south, we needed to be looking at the liquid heart of the Everglades ecosystem, at Lake Okeechobee, which was the source of a lot of this water. And the lake itself was in very desperate situation because of the change in hydrology. The lake level fluctuations were no longer normal. There was no way to store all the water that was coming down from the watershed. A lot of it was being pumped from the river, from the lake, through the St. Lucie and Caloosahatchee estuaries and being dumped to tide. So I think the most important sort of thing you need to know is that on average in South Florida, 1.7 billion gallons a day on average are dumped into the ocean. That's fresh water, that's rainfall, because there's no place to store it because now that whole watershed has been so drained. So into that situation, the bottom line is that WWF conducted an assessment of our own, saying who could we work with? What was the key issues that we needed to address to help solve the Lake Okeechobee problems having to do with too much nitrogen and phosphorus coming into the lake and the unnatural lake level fluctuations. And we concluded that assessment that the group that we needed to be working with were cattle ranchers in the Northern Everglades ecoregion. Based on that, we formed something called the Everglades Friendly Beef Steering Committee. This was in about 2003, and there were 6 ranchers who were willing to engage with us in a conversation about how we could do 2 things. How we could find a way forward that would be both ecologically better for the lake and economically better for the ranchers, because we wanted to keep them ranching in that watershed, and we had to do both. Now, I don't want to say that we didn't know what we were doing. We knew where we wanted to go to, but we didn't know exactly how we were going to do that. And we did follow a mosey along a trail of looking at one or the other type of ideas that we might come up with. We brought in some expert opinion. Greg Simons is out there. He was one of the experts we brought in to help us brainstorm about what we might do together. So essentially, through that process, we decided that the thing that was obviously of greatest demand and of importance was to figure out a way to hold up more water in the watershed and to try to reduce the nutrient load. And so the question was, all of these the state was contemplating billions of dollars, buying up land to put in regional facilities. Was there a way that we could have some of this provide some of that service? Is there a way that on ranches, in the shallow depressional areas that exist throughout many of these ranches, was there a way that we could create a dispersed water management as a way that some of those services could be provided, in addition to other tools and techniques, but was this something that was possible? So from 2003 through 2005, we worked together to try to convince skeptical ranchers, skeptical enviros, skeptical state and federal agency folks that it was possible that ranchers could provide some of the critical 1 million acre-feet of water retention that was necessary in order to address these water quality problems. Now, we knew that ranchers could provide these services. Why? Because they are doing water management every day to take care of that 54 inches that falls on their property now. So, and the way they do that, the way they keep water drained from their property are through pumps, culverts and riser boards. So that's culverts and riser boards, and that's a way that they can manage water flow between parts of their property and on and off. Impoundments, just basic water reservoir kinds of things, and then through the ditch network that they have over the last 100 years put in throughout these properties. So we knew that they knew how to take drainage systems and make them into retainage systems, and to take the systems that were used for flood control to keep water off, to keep water on. But the question was, how do you create a program? How do you create something which is feasible to administer and profitable to ranchers, also provide some accountability and take it to scale? Because, as I mentioned, that was 1 million acre feet. That's a lot of water that's needed. So doing something here or there that creates maybe 5, 10, 50, 60,000 acre feet isn't going to make a difference.